And you most likely will see rather prominently buttons that say sin, cos, and tan. You most likely are going to see buttons that say sin, cos, and tan, and they are sine, cosine, tangent. They are sin, cos, and you will notice they are very prominently featured. Very prominently featured. And these all have definitions, and I would like you to write this down. Sine is the opposite over the hypotenuse. The cosine is the adjacent over the hypotenuse. And the tangent is the opposite over the adjacent. And that is something all of us will be memorizing. And when I grew up in Faribault, Minnesota in 19... we memorized sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. That's how we did it. We just memorized it. Back in Faribault, Minnesota, some of you have driven through Faribault, Minnesota when you're going south in 19... yeah. Well, last night I was trying to sleep, woke up, and I heard Tola. It's like, huh? Tola. It's like, what? I'm here. And I heard Toa. And I shook myself awake and I wrote it down and I thought, oh my goodness, that weird sound I heard could help the kids memorize the trig functions. The word I was hearing was Toa. If you'd write that down, Toa. If you'd write that down, because what that's going to help you is S can stand for sine, O can stand for opposite, H can stand for hypotenuse. Oh my goodness, so opposite over hypotenuse. That could help you remember that sine is opposite over hypotenuse. That'd be great. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. CAH, cosine adjacent hypotenuse. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. So instead of just memorizing, you could remember Well, this sadly is a true story. I was on a chairlift at Afton Alps, and by the way, I think we have talked about this before. Minnesota Alps are different than French and Swiss Alps. When you are in the French and Swiss Alps, you have to look up to see the Alps. Only in Minnesota do you look down to see Alps. And my friend was asking me who I was skiing with, because he was from Iowa up for his little ski vacation at the Alps. And he said, what are you studying? And I said, oh, we're studying right triangle trig. We're studying right triangle trig. And he says, oh, do you mean? And here's what he said. I'm not kidding. He said this. Please write this down. Saddle our horses canter away happily to other adventures. I said, what? He said, saddle our horses, canter away happily to other adventures. Said, what are you talking about? And he said, saddle our horses. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Canter away happily. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. Oh my goodness. You now have 3 ways that you could memorize. You have 3 ways that you could memorize. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine adjacent over hypotenuse. Tangent opposite over adjacent. Or you could memorize so, ka, toa. So, ka, toa. Or you could remember the very happy story. If any of you need a little happiness in your life, think of this. Saddle our horses, canter away happily to other adventures. You have many ways to do that. The last part of this beginning lesson is as following. On your calculator, hit the word mode and make sure degrees is darkened in. It's going to go deg and rad. It might say deg and rad. It might say degree. It might say radian. You need degrees. You need degrees. You will be wrong if you don't have degrees. Let me tell you the difference between degrees and radians. In temperature, right now, it is about probably 30 degrees out. It's also -1 out if you're in Canada. What? Well, we use Fahrenheit, so it's about 30 degrees Fahrenheit. Canada uses Celsius, they would say -1. We're talking about the same thing. Radians, some of you who take more mathematics will know that radians are better than degrees. But for now, we are in degrees. You will need to be in degrees. If you're not sure you're in degrees, let yourself into degrees. So let me stop the recording. There's no homework today. Let me stop the recording.